Now to important business in Thornton Township, which hit a roadblock tonight, not because of the weather, not because of logistics, but because two trustees refused to show up.
Their absence prevented Supervisor Tiffany Henyard from filing a vacancy on the board. So what is going on?
Tiffany Henyard's ongoing actions in Thornton Township have sparked a wave of drama, especially on social media, with her frequent rants and critiques attracting attention. One particularly captivating element of these public displays is what has come to be known as lawyer cam, a moment during township meetings when viewers focus on the lawyer present at these events. Despite the gravity of the situation, the lawyer appears to be but while people may be entertained by the lawyer's indifferent stare, the real drama lies in Henyard's own actions. She frequently talks about the importance of cooperation and unity, yet her own behavior seems to contradict these ideals. Both Gonzalez and Carroll have pointed out that the township is essentially paralyzed due to Henyard's actions. She is in possession of a crucial key to the township's operations, yet she often criticizes trustees for their delays and has been accused of bullying those who disagree with her. The contradiction between her calls for unity and her divisive actions is hard to ignore. Take, for instance, a township meeting that never actually took place. Despite knowing in advance that two trustees would be absent, Henyard still made sure to attend, holding to her mantra of show up and show out. Rather than focusing on finding solutions to the township's challenges, Henyard seized the opportunity to criticize the missing trustees, blaming them for everything, from unpaid bills to delays in community services. She made sure to frame the situation as one of personal triumph, presenting herself as the only one capable of making progress, and implying that the township's problems were largely due to the other trustees' shortcomings. Henyard, it seems, is happy to cast herself as the hero in the narrative of Thornton Township. She boasts about the township's supposed financial success under her leadership, including budget surpluses and potential tax rebates for homeowners. However, her claims are often vague and unsubstantiated. There is no clear breakdown of these figures, and many residents are left wondering how the money is being managed or where it's going. Despite advocating for transparency and accountability, Henyard fails to provide concrete evidence or details to back up her grandiose statements. This pattern of self-promotion over transparency raises serious questions about her leadership. Rather than working collaboratively to resolve the township's issues, Henyard has been quick to assign blame to others. She accuses the trustees of hindering development, but fails to offer specific, actionable plans to move things forward. She often references what she calls the township's progress, but this progress seems to exist largely in her own narrative, without tangible proof to show for it. Another significant issue Henyard has raised is the vacant trustee position left by Jerry Jones's resignation. While she emphasizes the need to fill this position quickly to break the current deadlock, her urgency seems more focused on securing a loyal ally who will support her agenda rather than prioritizing the township's best interests. This push to fill the position without transparency suggests that Henyard may be more interested in consolidating power than ensuring true, thoughtful governance. The ongoing gridlock in Thornton Township, exacerbated by lawsuits involving former employees and a general lack of cooperation, reveals the dysfunction at play. Henyard's insistence on portraying herself as the solution to the problem, while providing little in the way of evidence or real progress, highlights her role in perpetuating the very stalemate she claims to want to end. In the end, while Henyard's public persona may be captivating to some, the township's lack of movement and transparency
Another challenge to Supervisor Tiffany Henyard.
And WGN's Jenna Barnes has details on a boycott by trustees to halt Henyard's.
Carl's actions are now being criticized as hypocritical for refusing to appoint a new trustee. In a joint statement from trustees Gonzalez and Carral, it was noted that Gonzalez recognizes the flaws in the current process and is pushing for a change, acknowledging that sticking to the same path would only repeat past mistakes. In contrast, Tiffany Henyard seems determined to preserve the very system that she once benefited from, despite now criticizing it. This raises an important question. Is appointing another trustee loyal to Henyard truly the solution? While it might temporarily break the gridlock, it risks deepening the divide by consolidating her control, something the township may not need. What may be more beneficial is a fresh start with an impartial leader who can restore integrity and cooperation, bridging the divide between Henyard's accusations of fake news and her threats to sue anyone who criticize her.
How Dalton's monthly meetings should be run from here on out. Mayor Tiffany Henyard sued village trustees earlier this month, accusing them of illegally holding a meeting.
Confidence in leadership is important, but when that confidence comes across as overly optimistic, especially given the stagnation and lack of development in the township, it can raise doubts. Tiffany Henyard has consistently portrayed herself as a modern-day civil rights leader, but if she truly wants to make that claim, she must first ensure that the community is not falling apart under her direction. The township is still in a state of gridlock, and there is no clear sign of progress. If you're going to position yourself as a leader for change, you must show that the community is moving forward, not just making bold claims. At recent meetings, Henyard has quickly shifted into the blame game when things go wrong. She accused absent trustees of spreading misinformation, reprimanded anonymous critics for allegedly tarnishing her reputation, and cast herself as the victim of a political conspiracy. While assigning blame is easy, true leadership involves stepping up, setting a positive example, and supporting ambitious claims with solid, indisputable facts, none of which Henyard has demonstrated convincingly so far. One of the most glaring contradictions in Henyard's leadership is her frequent calls for cooperation and unity, which often ring hollow in the face of her actions. If Henyard truly improved the township's financial situation, why is there so much confusion about where the supposed surpluses are coming from? Transparency on these issues is lacking, and many residents remain in the dark about the specifics. Rather than explaining or providing clarity, Henyard tends to bulldoze anyone who disagrees with her. Dissent is portrayed as sabotage, and those who challenge her are quickly labeled as traitors. She crafts a narrative where she is the martyr and her critics are the betrayers. Leadership, however, is about bringing people together, even those who may disagree with you at the moment. A true leader can unite diverse perspectives and find common ground. Unfortunately, Henyard's approach seems more focused on maintaining her authority than on fostering collaboration. She appears more interested in affirming her control than in creating an inclusive, productive environment for the township. If she truly wants to lead effectively, she needs to engage with all stakeholders, including those who might be challenging her decisions. Take the vacant trustee position as an example. Without a full board, critical decisions are delayed, bills go unpaid, and resident services are at risk. Henyard's response to the vacancy has been to accuse Trustee Carral of dishonesty and advancing a personal agenda. This approach casts doubt on Henyard's sincerity and her willingness to work collaboratively. Instead of promoting a solution that would bring the board together, she seems focused on discrediting those who disagree with her. Thorne Township is at a crossroads. The community is in dire need of change, but that change must come through leaders who can set aside their pride and focus on what matters most: the residents. The township deserves leadership that will tackle the issues at hand, work together to find solutions, and prioritize the common good over political ambitions. As things stand, Henyard's leadership style seems more about control than cooperation. She must show that she can truly lead by supporting her claims with tangible results and actions, not just rhetoric. Moreover, Everyone involved, Henyard and the trustees alike, must be willing to collaborate for the benefit of the township. The central problem with Henyard's leadership is that it seems to be characterized by a look-at-me mentality combined with an unwavering refusal to allow any questioning of her decisions. This creates a tense dynamic where the trustees and Henyard are locked in a tug-of-war, with the residents suffering the consequences. Unpaid bills, delayed services, and critical programs, like the property tax refund Henyard frequently touts, remain in limbo. Rather than focusing on these issues, Henyard continues to promote herself as the only solution, while the real work of governance stalls. Henyard's constant self-promotion, including comparing herself to civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, often feels more like campaigning than actual governance. Her speeches come across as grandiose and self-congratulatory, but there is little action behind them. Meanwhile, her refusal to cooperate with the trustees and her lack of transparency regarding important financial matters only make the situation worse. The township is in desperate need of clarity and openness. Henyard has mentioned the possibility of calling a special board meeting to address these ongoing issues. However, as the township reaches a critical juncture, it remains unclear whether such a meeting will result in meaningful change or just more political theater. The township needs trustees who can think independently, rather than simply rubber-stamping decisions. It's crucial that the people's needs take precedence over political gamesmanship. At the end of the day, the focus should not be on the power struggle between Henyard and the trustees, but on whether Thorne Township can move forward and provide the services that its residents deserve. If Henyard truly wants to foster the unity she frequently advocates for, she must demonstrate a genuine commitment to cooperation. This means working alongside the trustees, providing transparency, and putting the community's needs above her own political ambitions. Only then can the township begin to heal and progress.
Works in South Suburban Dalton. At the village board meeting tonight, embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard spoke out after public comments addressing respect in the meeting.
Since I won't be attending today's meeting, at least we know in advance that it's been canceled. However, I'd like to take a moment to review the statement released by trustees Carmen Caroline and Christopher Gonzalez. We can analyze it and discuss our thoughts before tomorrow. This impromptu video is useful because it provides us with something to think about and respond to before the next meeting. The trustees' message is certainly worth unpacking, as it raises several key issues that have been building in Thorne Township. The trustees announced that they've made the difficult decision to skip tomorrow's scheduled board meeting, explaining that this decision wasn't made lightly. They believe that by not attending, they are upholding the values of transparency and responsible governance, which they argue are critical for serving the residents of Thorne Township. Without their participation, the meeting cannot proceed because a quorum will not be reached. Unfortunately, the trustees pointed out that the current meeting agenda did not meet the necessary criteria to ensure a productive session. They described the items on the agenda as more likely to foster unnecessary disagreements than to generate any meaningful solutions. The trustees made it clear that their goal is to improve the township by addressing pressing issues in a transparent and accountable manner. However, they believe that the current meeting setup is not conducive to that goal. Among the pressing issues they mentioned was the finalization of a new bank account to ensure the financial stability and protection of township funds. They also highlighted the agenda item about appointing a new board member, which they believed should be decided by the residents of Thorne Township rather than a select group of people behind closed doors. The trustees referenced the appointment of Tiffany Henyard as supervisor as an example of how past decisions made without community input have led to conflict and complications. Their point is clear. Decisions made in isolation often lead to dysfunction and division. They want board meetings to be more professional, constructive, and focused on the needs of the community rather than getting bogged down by conflicts that impede progress. The trustees concluded by asserting that they are there to ensure the voices of residents are heard, their concerns addressed, and that the township progresses with integrity. They are committed to making decisions that will positively impact the community's future, and at the moment, they believe the township is stuck in a dysfunctional cycle. The lack of a formal meeting further emphasizes the state of gridlock. With no meeting today, it's likely that Henyard will still appear and make her usual long speech, full of the same rhetoric we've heard before. She will probably wait for the other trustees to arrive and once again give a speech filled with the same claims about surpluses, progress, and unity. But there won't be a formal meeting today, which serves as another example of how government shouldn't be run. This situation speaks volumes about the dysfunction at the top, starting with the supervisor. It's clear that Henyard's leadership, or lack thereof, has contributed significantly to the chaos. Gonzalez and Carline's decision to skip the meeting effectively ends it, as their absence removes the necessary quorum to proceed. This move can be interpreted as a deliberate statement about the current leadership and the lack of planning that's so evident in the township. Let's move on to the agenda, because that's where the real frustration lies. Gonzalez and Carline are calling the agenda unvetted, which is a polite way of saying that it's a disaster. They suggest that it includes items that will only fuel drama and discord, rather than solving the township's real issues. This implies that someone, likely Henyard, is pushing for decisions that could have serious consequences, but are designed to create conflict. The trustees are essentially accusing the supervisor of running the township as though planning and foresight are optional. At best, it seems that Henyard is managing things according to her own agenda, without consulting the rest of the board or considering the community's needs. The trustees' frustration is palpable, as they feel they're being forced into a situation where they're expected to approve things without proper discussion or due diligence. The lack of planning before the meeting is deeply concerning. Who is authorizing these items? Is there a formal approval procedure in place, or is this just a hasty attempt to push things through without any checks and balances? The trustees' message suggests that there are serious issues with how decisions are being made and who is making them. This leads to the obvious question: what is Tiffany Henyard really up to? It's becoming increasingly difficult to trust a leadership structure where the individuals in charge seem more focused on creating strife than on addressing the community's actual needs. The trustees' statement reveals a growing distrust of Henyard's leadership, as they accuse her of exacerbating the township's problems instead of finding solutions. If the township is ever going to move forward, it will require honest and transparent leadership that is willing to work collaboratively with all board members, not just one individual pushing her own agenda. In conclusion, this impromptu review of the statement from Carline and Gonzalez highlights the ongoing dysfunction in Thoron Township. The trustees have made it clear that they're not willing to sit through a meeting that will only foster division and avoid necessary discussions. They want to focus on the real issues, like financial stability and community input, and they're calling for a fresh approach to leadership. For the township to progress, Henyard and the board must find common ground and ensure that governance is transparent, accountable, and focused on the needs of the residents. Since I won't be attending today's meeting, we know in advance that it's been canceled. However, I'd like to take the opportunity to review the statement released by trustees Carmen Carline and Christopher Gonzalez. This impromptu video provides a chance to analyze and discuss their message, as it raises several key issues regarding the governance of Thoron Township, especially as we approach tomorrow's meeting. The trustees made it clear that they have decided not to attend tomorrow's scheduled board meeting, explaining that this decision was not made lightly. They believe it's necessary to maintain transparency and responsible governance within the township, and that residents deserve a board that values these principles. By not attending, Carline and Gonzalez noted that a quorum would not be reached, meaning the meeting cannot proceed as planned. The trustees also pointed out that the current meeting agenda did not meet the criteria for meaningful discussion. Instead of addressing important issues, they felt the agenda was likely to lead to needless disagreement rather than provide solutions. The trustees emphasized that their goal is to improve the township by tackling pressing issues in a transparent and accountable way. They are working to address essential matters, but want to ensure they do so in a meaningful, organized manner. For instance, they mention the ongoing effort to finalize the selection of a new bank account to secure the financial stability of the township. This process, they argue, is crucial for protecting township funds and ensuring that financial operations are sound. Additionally, the trustees expressed concerns over the agenda item regarding the appointment of a new board member. Carline and Gonzalez believe that this decision should involve community input, rather than being made by a small group behind closed doors. They pointed to the appointment of Tiffany Henyard as supervisor as a clear example of how decisions made without consulting the community can cause unnecessary conflict and complications. The trustees were also clear in their desire for board meetings to be professional, constructive, and focused on solving the township's problems, rather than descending into pointless conflicts that obstruct progress. The trustees concluded their message by reiterating their commitment to listening to residents' voices and addressing their concerns, with the goal of moving the township forward with integrity. They believe that the residents of Thoron Township deserve to have a say in decisions that will directly impact their future. However, they acknowledged the dysfunction at play, noting that the township is currently stuck in a cycle of gridlock, and that there is a serious need for change. Given that no formal meeting is planned, it's likely that Henyard will still show up and give her usual long speech, filled with the same rhetoric we've all heard before. She will likely wait for the other trustees to arrive and then deliver another lengthy tirade that rehashes her familiar themes of surpluses, progress, and unity. But without a meeting, this would simply be another example of government dysfunction. Henyard's actions are becoming a clear symbol of the leadership vacuum in the township, where the supervisor seems more interested in maintaining her own control than in resolving the real issues facing the community. Let's take a closer look at the situation. Gonzalez and Carlene's decision to skip the meeting effectively nullifies it, as their absence removes the quorum needed to conduct business. This sends a clear message about the dysfunction at the top. Their absence isn't just an empty gesture, it's a deliberate stance against a lack of planning and accountability. The trustees have made it clear that they won't participate in a meeting that won't lead to real, meaningful solutions. Now, let's turn to the agenda. The trustees have referred to the agenda as unvetted, which is a diplomatic way of saying it's a mess. The items on the agenda seem designed to create unnecessary drama and conflict, rather than addressing the township's real issues. This could be a deliberate attempt by someone like Henyard to push through contentious decisions that could have serious consequences for the community. If the agenda is compared to a ticking time bomb, it's clear that it needs a serious reevaluation. The trustees have accused Henyard of managing the township as though careful planning and foresight are optional, or, at the very least, solely within her control. This is deeply concerning because it suggests that decisions are being made without consideration for the community's needs or for long-term stability. The lack of cooperation between Henyard and the trustees is alarming, and this problem is only compounded by the complete lack of planning before meetings. Who is approving these agenda items? Is there a formal process in place for approving the items before they're placed on the meeting agenda? Or is this just a rush to push through decisions without any scrutiny? This leads to the key question: what is Henyard up to? It's becoming harder to trust leadership when those in control appear more interested in causing strife than in addressing real issues. This inability to govern effectively is undermining the township's ability to progress. Even the most basic tasks, like finalizing a bank account to secure township funds, are becoming disastrous under Henyard's leadership. What should be a simple process has spiraled into chaos, leaving residents frustrated and uncertain about the future of their community. It's as though Thoron Township has become the setting for a poorly scripted reality TV show where the drama takes precedence over effective governance. Managing public funds and ensuring the stability of the township should require transparency and careful planning, not impulsive decisions made behind closed doors. If the township is ever to move forward, it will require leadership that can manage these basic tasks without turning them into a circus. At the heart of this issue is a breakdown of trust between the supervisor and the trustees. The trustees are trying to bring accountability and thoughtful planning back to the table, but they face a supervisor who seems more interested in maintaining control and pushing through her own agenda. This ongoing dysfunction is only hurting the residents of Thoron Township, who deserve better. It's time for a serious reevaluation of leadership in the township, one that prioritizes transparency, collaboration, and the well-being of the community over personal ambitions and political maneuvering. In conclusion, the current state of Thoron Township highlights the dangers of a lack of transparency and accountability in leadership. As the trustees continue to face resistance from Henyard, they are left to navigate a political landscape filled with unnecessary conflict and dysfunction. The township's future depends on the ability of its leaders to work together and focus on the issues that matter most to the residents, rather than getting bogged down in petty disagreements and power struggles.